Hello, hello, hello. It is time to do the pick'ems for the final stage of one of the biggest CSGO tournaments of the year. It is the CSGO Major at Katowice, of course. And this is a bit later than I would have liked. I've been very busy, I am afraid to say. But for those of you that follow me on Instagram, you may just have seen that I've put up my Instagram as an Instagram post which details my pick'ems for this final stage. Now, we're going to go through it team by team, or rather I should say matchup by matchup, and you can get to how I'm thinking about this. So first of all, if we do the top bracket, we've got Astralis versus NIP. NIP have been a little bit shaky here or there. Of course, they are up against Astralis because they are one of the low seeds, and Astralis, of course, being the high seed. So it's very unfortunate in that sense because NIP is a very skilled team. If they played against ENCE, that would be a fantastic game. If they played against Renegades, it'd be a fantastic game. If they played against FaZe or Na'Vi, even, I think that this you can't quite count them out, but they're definitely not quite as good as FaZe or Na'Vi, I think, right now, or in this stage of the tournament. And they're not up against the likes of ENCE or Renegades either. They're up against one of the best teams in this bracket, which is Astralis. Well, Astralis is the best team in this bracket. So that's a problem. I don't think we're going to see NIP passing this hurdle. It's Astralis. After all, they are the best team in the world. There's no reason to doubt that at this point. So I see Astralis winning that matchup. They'll be up against, I think, MIBR in the semifinals. And the way I reason that is because although a lot of people have said to me, hey, Renegades are doing so well, and we're really hyped about how good they are and how much they've surprised us. For me, I was one of the people that did say that they would do very well. I didn't think they would do quite as well as they did and in the fashion that they did, but I was expecting them to do well. And that is some of the benefit that I have had when I saw this team when it first formed, and I got to see them playing ECS, and I got to saw them in some of these smaller tournaments. And so I had a bit more exposure to them before other people had, as they went under the radar slightly with this new lineup. And so although they have so much promise, I just don't think it's going to be enough because against MIBR is a team that has not performed to expectation for myself and for many others. I think MIBR has shown that they so far haven't really been all that special. They haven't really brought any excitement or energy, the kind of energy that we would have expected to the game and that we expect from their players in the way that we expected. So that's kind of sad so far. But at this stage of the tournament, I fully expect that MIBR will up their level for a variety of reasons. One, because, well, actually, you know what? It all ties into the same thing. It's because they're playing the playoffs of a major, and it's 5 players who've all been in major finals. It's 5 players who all have major trophies. It's 5 players that have picked up major trophies together. So that's a big deal because it's the most experienced team versus, or one of the most experienced teams at this level and players versus one of the least experienced teams and players at this level. And that really goes a long way at this stage. We saw with Complexity and Big at the previous major that they looked incredible in the first couple weeks, but as soon as they hit that big arena, when they move into what will be the Spodek for this tournament, they just fell flat. They just couldn't really deal with the pressure. There was a lot of different psychological challenges in that sense, and they got into their own heads and they failed. Now, I do not want this to happen to Renegades, and I think that they can make it competitive and that they can hold their nerve, but I still feel like MIBR, this is more about the fact that this stage serves to level up them for me. If Renegades do it, that'd be amazing, and it'll make for a great game, but I don't think they will. Going on to the next game, it would be MIBR versus Astralis, and I think that has a lot of potential to be very good. I think there's a lot of flair and energy on MIBR that could, obviously those are both buzzwords. I apologize for the ambiguity that is inherent within that. But I do think that MIBR is a team that does have some of the components that you need to be able to take down Astralis. And honestly, one of the biggest components there is actually, I would say, Fallen. I think, and Fur. I think that both Fallen and Fur have very different styles of play, but they both share a level of aggressiveness and playmaking ability that can really turn the tide. And in a moment, in a flash, they can both spin around on its head with a crazy play with the AWP if it's Fallen in a spot that you just do not expect it. Or similarly with Fur, if he's able to find his feet into this playoffs, he is also capable of doing stuff like that. And then, of course, you have a player like Cold, who's this steady rock solid player that's sort of supported now again by Taco. Like there is a great deal of opportunity for this team if they're able to do what they do best, to throw enough wrenches into the works of Astralis that they could actually win against them. And I think they're one of the few teams that have that potential. The fact that they haven't shown that potential so far yet in this major is very unfortunate. Going into this major, we were all very excited to see what they had to bring to the table, because they are a team that didn't really have anything. We didn't have any data on them leading up to the major, you know. So we were really expecting a lot. I think, you know, Zeus coming back into the mix as a coach. It's they've had some extra time to prepare as there's been breaks between the stages, and they are a championship level team and players. They should be peaking at this point. They should be bringing a new level at this point. So I think that, you know, whilst they should be able to give a good series against Astralis, they'll still lose, or they should still lose. But I think that we could see a great game. But as it would see Astralis winning, and that would place them in the finals. So let's do the next, the lower bracket now, or the lower side of the bracket. So Team Liquid against ENCE. I'm really fearful for ENCE. I feel like this will be a crushing game. I feel like this will be the most one-sided game we're going to see outside of Astralis NIP. I think that NIP, there's a world where they can put up a fight in if they get in the right spots, but I think ENCE are going to the nerves are going to get to them. Nerves have been something that they've been struggling with, and it only gets worse from here. It only gets worse. And you know what? It gets even worse because you're playing against Team Liquid, who is another team that's incredibly experienced. You're adding the player you're adding to the mix has won a major and has been on top teams for a very long time at this point, and has played in grand finals on the hugest stages like Stewie, you know, for a long time. So the new addition is someone that's only serving to strengthen the team experience-wise, and they already have such a cool and calm demeanor. And if you look at how they were consistently in finals and top 3 of all of last year, and the only team that could really mess with them was Astralis, like this is just going to be tough. This is going to be so tough. I fear that ENCE will get crushed here. I hope they don't, but I think that they will. And that will place Team Liquid in the second semifinals for me. Now, moving on to the most interesting game, I would say, of the quarterfinals of the major here. Na'Vi versus FaZe. Now, Na'Vi have been banning Cash, so we're not going to see a Cash. That's one of the better maps for FaZe. FaZe have been getting rid of Overpass and also avoiding Nuke of late, so we're not going to see Overpass or Nuke. Which leaves us with Train, Inferno, Mirage, and Dust 2. Now, the only real map where I would say FaZe of a clear edge is probably Dust 2, for obvious reasons. And obviously, you know, with the kind of caliber of players that Na'Vi have, and also the style of play that they like, there is always a chance that they can do pretty well against FaZe on that map, but we'll go into that in a moment. Then we have Mirage, which is a likely map as well, which FaZe do like to play, but their record on it has not been good. They've got a 20% win rate. So I'm looking at the HLTV stats, and we see a 20% win rate over the last 3 months in which they played that map. And the way the stat works is it only counts it if they played that map 3 or more times. And so they have five instances do FaZe of Mirage, and they have 20%. For Na'Vi, they've been finding a lot of success on Mirage, and I have quite a few things to say about that before we close out this podcast. So I would expect that Na'Vi would definitely take the win there. Inferno is probably going to be somewhat of a 50-50 affair between both FaZe and Na'Vi. So if we get a 3-map series, I would really like it to be like Dust 2 Mirage and then a finish on Inferno. If there's a Train in the mix, that's also another map that would probably be, I would say, maybe like 60-40 in favor of Na'Vi. I think that FaZe haven't been playing a particularly great level on Train. They're just doing the basics pretty well and sort of running over their opponents with individual skill. Na'Vi have kind of been doing the same thing, honestly. Like I watched the Na'Vi Avanga game in detail and I was on my stream. I was analyzing it, and I actually saw that Avanga played theoretically great and strategically great, a great CT side. Their T side was not quite as good. They were struggling to aim, and this was a little bit surprising to me. But I think that Na'Vi, going into the way that they play Mirage, for example, they're a team that like to create expectations. They like to go more or lean away from the default style of Counter-Strike, and they like to use the pace to create expectation. They like to pressure specific parts of the map early on T sides to condition their opponent to have to care more about that, and then they want to play on potential openings that might result. So they really enjoy that style where it's a battle of the in-game leaders and it's a bunch of mind games and it's a bunch of conditioning. Whereas, let's say Astralis and Team Liquid, these are teams that don't want to think about that as much. They like to think about the default way of playing the game, which is overall, I would say, more consistent. But I think in the series against FaZe, I think this could be actually quite beneficial for Na'Vi, because I feel like strategically, tactically, both teams are on a somewhat of a similar level. I just feel like Zeus is probably going to be able to call better as far as the in-game leader angle goes, and as far as reading the map goes. I think that's going to be a bit snappier, and the experience differential there, I think that's going to pay off. And if the money is going to be made on Mirage, Train, in this series, I think that I'm going to give the edge to Na'Vi on those maps, and I think that we are going to see those maps. I think Mirage is very likely. I think Dust 2 could be a third for sure. Inferno could be a third, but I think Train is also another one that could happen. So for me, I'm leaning Na'Vi. I think you wouldn't be mistaken to pick FaZe here. I think this is very much a 50-50 affair, but I'm going to lean Na'Vi with this one. And obviously with that said, if I'm going to Na'Vi, then it's going to be a Team Liquid Na'Vi matchup. And again, for me, Na'Vi's style can be at the very, very top level, a little consistent. I think Team Liquid do have a really good look to them at the moment. I feel like their more default playstyle is going to be very beneficial to them. They're going to be up against Astralis. Astralis are going to beat them in the finals because hey, it's Astralis, and Team Liquid have a very bad record against them, and they did win only at that one Iber Power event, and that event obviously had a lot of issues. So I don't know how much I would like to read into that result, especially as Team Liquid had just added Stewie as well. So there you have it. That's my pick'ems predictions for the major playoffs that is to be happening very, very shortly. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And now I've done these pick'ems and everything like that. I have some more plans for my content. On my stream, I'll probably be covering some of the games. So to just follow my stream and check that out. Check out my Twitter. So it will be DDK Esports, my Instagram as well, and you can catch when I'm going live. And usually I like to just sit down and just look at the games and talk about the strategy that's being employed by both teams, and really try to go in depth on the decision making from that side, because I feel like we don't really have that very much. And if you're commentating the game, you're focusing on the narratives, you're focusing on the energy, you're focusing on the viewers. And you're focusing on the viewers in a way where you're thinking, okay, who are my viewers? Well, they're mostly not people that are going to be super engaged by going super deep on the strategical level of the game. They're there for the energy, the hype, the storylines. So that's what they deliver. The No Majors Club is more of like humor and hype, and bringing the narratives as well, and just having a laugh while doing it, and being on the couch with a bunch of guys that are prominent community members, and that's really cool as well. So one of the reasons why I liked is just sitting down and talking about the strategy and having all the space to do it, because I'm by myself. I just really liked that, and I think people enjoyed it, the few who checked in on the stream. So you might catch me doing that. I will ask about the No Majors Club. I've been asked about that a lot, so I'll go and send a message to Richard or one of the other people that are regulars like Thorin, and see if I can jump on there for a brief time. But otherwise, as far as major content goes, I think that'll probably be it for me. So make sure you catch those things, follow the stream. DDK TV is the stream, and upcoming podcasts, there's a lot planned. I have a follow-up with Taylor. For those of you that enjoyed the talks about sports performance and sports psychology and all that kind of stuff with Taylor previously, we have a follow-up coming. And there's a bunch of different guests that I have coming in the future as well. Now that I'm going to ramp up the guests. Some people ask me on my stream as well. Like, the stream is a really great place to ask me questions, because I'll just kind of candidly answer in the best way that I can. And a few people did ask me about where the guests been at, and I had actually originally planned to do a lot of podcasts that I would have recorded at the major, and because obviously I didn't get the major, and I was shocked as much as many were, and this was like a last minute thing that where I found out about it more or less. It put me in a position where I was like, well, you know what, let's just try this solo format. Like, I don't have anything in the books, I don't have anything scheduled, because I was going to do it on site. So let's see how this solo format goes, and people have been enjoying it. And if you would like to support the content, obviously share it. That's fantastic. Like it on the various podcast apps, as well as various subscriptions that you can do as well. Whether it's like iTunes or Spotify or like whatever else it is, to give me bump up my stats. But also Patreon, if you want to go a step further, or hit up my stream, and you can support me through there as well. It's patreon.com/DDK Esports. I hope you have a fantastic major weekend. I'll see you on the next one.